So Galen Bailey, thanks for coming this week. I mean, this is Sunday mornings. This is my favorite time of the week now, and hopefully it's going to become a nice time for lots of people to discuss this stuff. But thanks for joining us. Galen Bailey operates a private business in downtown Niagara Falls, 3rd Street. And Civics is not just government. It's a lot of government, but it's a lot of everything else. It's from the Salvation Army to private businesses. So we need to talk to everybody about how they interact and how they run their business in Niagara Falls, because that's our focus of how Civics works. So we've asked Galen to come. I've talked to him quite a bit about some of the things, but we'll recover it because we'll post this 1-hour talk with Galen on the website, on YouTube, so everybody can go back and visit it. And so that's why we're doing it again with Galen. Galen, thanks. We were just talking about, the season starting for you April 1st, but maybe even starting today because it's weather driven. But you do operate a business. What is it? I know it's bike rentals, but what is your business on 3rd Street?
So I started a business. It's kind of morphed into this thing called Sightsee Rentals. I started a rental company or a bike rental company in 2014. Started with just 10 beach cruisers. I had 5 male beach cruisers, 5 female beach cruisers. And that was my first year of actually renting anything to tourists. It was in 2014. And it quickly developed into a full service rental company for tourists where we rent wheelchairs, electric mobility scooters, electric stand-up scooters, bicycles of all types, from adults to kids. We even rent kid wagons, strollers, pretty much anything you would need on your trip to Niagara Falls. My company rents. And that really kind of happened, I would say, organically. It wasn't planned that way to rent all this equipment. It just started, it went from bikes, and people kept coming up to the kiosk that we were renting from, asking for more and more equipment. And that I just kept hearing more and more things that people wanted. And I just went out and purchased equipment and started basically figuring out what else could people get and want when they come on their trip. So we started in 2014 with just a little kiosk, and it's turned into a kiosk and now a storefront on 3rd Street.
Why did you pick Niagara Falls? Could you have picked the boardwalk in Buffalo? Obviously, it was far more in the news in 14, 15, 16. Yeah. Why are you on 3rd Street? So I'm sorry, why are you in the Falls?
Why in the Falls? Yeah. So how it kind of all began. So I way back when I was a teenager, I worked in the state parks for 2 summers. I was a touring, like a conductor on the trolley. So they just had these big green trolleys they just bought. There was a driver that you had to have a CDL license, and I was 16, so I would conduct this speech around the park, and it was just like a little summer job. I enjoyed doing it, and eventually, when I graduated high school, I went away to school. I went to NU for a little bit, then I moved to Boston. Had a little more fun in college than actual academics, and I came back home. Actually, had to got a CDL license myself, and I drove over the road truck for 1 year. And I hated it. I couldn't stand it. And I had the CDL, and I was like, what am I going to do with this CDL license? So I saw an ad in the paper about being a tour guide in Niagara Falls, and you had to have a CDL license. So I said, I have this license. I did tours gave a speech in high school. I was like, I know a lot of history, so I might as well just become a tour guide. So I got a job. I worked for Over the Falls Tours. Then I went to Cataract Tours. And after about 3 years of working for these companies, I was like, I want to start my own tour company. And I saw kind of the opening of Old Falls Street. They had knocked down the Winter Garden. They connected this walkway from the park to the casino. And I thought, what would be an awesome idea is to get a bicycle rickshaw or a pedicab and start hustling up and down the street, maybe giving quick rides, doing tours, which quickly turned into personal tours. And I just saw the opportunity. I saw when I was working for the tour companies, I just saw so many people that came to Niagara Falls, and I couldn't believe how well these tour operators did. Everyone said you won't make any money in Niagara Falls. Well, when I worked for these tour companies, I was like, these guys that own these companies are making a ton of money. I was like, there's opportunity to start a business here and offer something different. There are a lot of the tour companies all offer the same tour. So I decided, what if I offer something a little bit different with a bicycle rickshaw? And I went that route, which I did for about 3 years until the opportunity arose to get into rentals in 2014. So that's how I pretty much got into it.
Now, that's a lot of business experience and hands-on experience.
Yeah.
and you may not have this experience, but is it easy to open a business in Niagara Falls? Again, you didn't open one in Cleveland or San Antonio, but how has it been to be in business?
Yeah, so let's see, it's easy and it's not easy. The easy part is nothing's developed. So you're not competing against anybody. So if you have a new idea, nobody's really doing it. So you could start something brand new that's maybe already developed in another city where you got 4 or 5 different companies all fighting over one thing. So I would say the development of the idea part is kind of easy because there is not much going on here. There's a ton of opportunities to get into stuff. The hard part is just the kind of the chaoticness, and there's something streamlined with starting a business in Niagara Falls because nobody really knows what you can and can't do. So when I started the pedicab business, that was my opening. If I could get a pedicab business going in Niagara Falls, I can get anything going because it was nothing but roadblocks. I couldn't ride a pedicab in the state park. The state park gave me a hard time about it. The city was also giving me a hard time about it because they said I had to get a permit, but there was no permit to get. So they basically I was kind of like in limbo. Eventually they did pass a permit, and there's just a lot of, even reapplying for the permit, there's a lot of issues with it. The permit wasn't written properly. So there's been a lot of things that there's like hurdles all the time when you first start a business in Niagara Falls. Now I've gotten to the point, I've been around long enough that I start so many new things or things that there is no permit for, that I'm kind of left alone. But that's not the case. If you're new to the city or trying to start a business, there's no easy process to do it. You'll get hit with a lot of what you can't do and not how do you overcome the hurdles. It's mostly like, well, you can't do this or you can't do that. It's not, how do I do it then? How can I do it? So those are some issues, but after you kind of go through it, trial and error, and you kind of just learn as you go, which that's pretty much how I do everything. I just do it. And when you make a mistake, you just correct it and move forward. But yeah, now I would say for me personally, it is a lot easier to get going with businesses.
Do you think, where's the center of the falls? And let me only compare it to the other side, because I go to the falls on both sides, and I go to the center of everything on the other side seems to be Clifton Hill, and then you go out from there. Where's the center of our existence in Niagara Falls? Because I don't always make it up to 3rd Street, and it's only 2 blocks.
Yeah, it's a good question. So, well, the center, I think, strategically planned is Old Falls Street. The goal was, I think, from at least looking at this strategically, is, Old Falls Street connecting the state park up to the casino. And that should essentially, funnel traffic up towards the casino, where you can splinter off onto 3rd Street, either going right or left, hopefully going left where there's more commercial properties. A lot of them are hopefully going to be developed. And I would say the center is supposed to be Old Falls Street. It's starting to switch that way. It was not always that way. The center really was O'Loughlin Street, oddly enough, between Hard Rock Cafe and the One Niagara building. That had the absolute most trafficked people in all of downtown Niagara Falls. Everybody drove in on the Parkway, funneled into the stop sign at O'Loughlin. They either parked left in the state park or they parked right in the One Niagara building. So that is probably why you saw I would say 10 years ago, all the development, not necessarily massive development, but a ton of vendors popping up along the One Niagara buildings, because that's where all the people were. When I started on Old Falls Street and doing a pedicab in 2011, there was not really anyone walking on Old Falls Street. When I got into rentals in 2014 on Old Falls Street, it was starting to get a little bit better. Now I would say it is definitely the last 2 years I've noticed the shift, with people coming more on Old Falls Street and less on O'Loughlin. And you even notice the vendor attraction to it. Vendors are starting to notice too, and they're starting to hedge their bets of how do we get onto Old Falls Street? So I feel slightly lucky that I got onto it, on the street. I was their first vendor on the street, really. Seeing that the plan a long time ago, I was just kind of being patient and saying, I think this will have an uptick. I popped up on the street, and then eventually Mario's Pizzeria came onto the street, Flip Burger. You've seen Macanelli's across the street popping up over there. Vendor, food trucks now are more consistent on the street. So, like I said, from 2011 to 2021, it's not anywhere near where it needs to be of development, but it is definitely dramatically different. We're seeing a lot more people on the street.
Do you think organic development compared to the top-down development? Like I saw the development go on over the years, and there used to be no foot traffic between the casino, no car traffic between the casino and the falls. Now there's car traffic, and I just walk in the middle of the street, not even thinking a car is coming because I'm used to just walking in there. With kind of the movement everywhere else I go to walking between attractions, why did we open that up to car traffic? And then shouldn't that, I don't know, what's the word on the street among vendors as to how this thing is developing?
Yeah. Well, I would say all the vendors, myself included, just about every business wants car traffic on Old Fall Street. We do now. I would say I do not like when the street's closed. When the street is closed for events or festivals, if it's at one end of the block, that's all right. You know, if it's say the block where the conference center is, the Sheridan, because you're going to draw people from the park, they're going to walk down the street to go to it. But cars, it just seems people, and there's a lot of movement to try to make things more walkable, more pedestrian, but which is great, but we still are not at that stage, I feel like, in the country as a whole, where people still like to drive their car. They want to drive their car on the street and see businesses first before they make that decision to park their car and then walk onto that street. I feel like they have to give a drive-by. And every vendor wants the street open. I want the street open. I think it's always good when people can drive by, because what I'll notice is people will drive by and they keep circling around to come back around and like, hey, what is this again? So I like when the street is, an actual thoroughfare of cars coming through it.
Oh, see, that's good feedback. I thought exactly the opposite, but I'm not there. So that's great feedback.
Yeah, it's like too, like Clifton Hill, or even on the other side, Lundy's Lane. You could tell, and if you're going on the other side, walking on the sidewalk, you see people driving by on, showing off their cars. It's kind of like a little, people want to drive around and show off their cars. And I see that a lot on actually Old Fall Street. A lot of people will drive down with their classic cars because they want to show it off. And they know there's people going to be on the street, then they're going to get their attention. So it's just kind of part of that whole thing where it's you're creating kind of a scene.
Yeah.
And that's what you want on that, some sort of scene to take place.
Yeah. Thinking of the bigger picture of the city as a whole, do you imagine that tourism is our number one industry? Are we still a manufacturing community? Do we know what we want to be? Is there a direction that we're all supposed to be following, or are we just still hanging out?
I think 100% that the city's number one industry is tourism. I don't necessarily think it's treated that way, but it is 100% tourism. I mean, all this investment into opening up the bike pass and pass along the gorge to get more access to it. It's going to draw a lot more visitors. We have this waterfall that's never going to move. As a whole, the United States is really even much of a manufacturing country anymore. I don't think that's, it's all moved to the continent of Asia. You got to start thinking outside the box. You could start saying, oh, we're going to bring manufacturing jobs back. Well, that's like at a national level, and you're relying on the federal government and government policy to try to bring that back. But in our own backyard, we can't really depend and wait for that to happen. You're going to have to move on what you have, and what we have is tourism. We might as well bolster it up and do as much as we can to get as many visitors here and extend the season. Right now, the season is really only about a good 4 months. 2 of the months are the best, July and August. It's great, great revenue for everybody's business. And then it really tinkers down, it's by September, it's pretty slow. And then November, December, January, February, March, it is really pretty quiet. So if we can bolster up and make this a year-round destination and have tourists coming 12 months out of the year, a good flow of it, it can really build up this tourism industry, and it can create lots of jobs for local residents.
So if we were to do that and focus on Niagara Falls only, why is there such a huge taste of Buffalo, so to speak? They closed down the whole Niagara Square. It's closed down from Friday to Sunday. I don't see a taste of Niagara Falls. I don't see. Let me say another thing. There's supposedly 8 million tourists every year in Niagara Falls. I was going to the falls 3-4 times a week, all summer, all winter, and I never had a traffic jam ever. I was able to drive exactly where I wanted to drive at any waking moment. And 8 million people is a lot. 1 million, 100,000. So I don't know about these, so anyway, how do we get more traffic into the falls? Foot traffic, people traffic?
Yeah. I would say, there was a little bit of movement going on with festivals. Obviously COVID kind of put a damper on that. The Blues Festival seemed to be a really successful event that would happen in September. It was great. It was really starting to build up, and it was doing really good. And then COVID hit. There was the Arts and Music Festival, which happened, I think, for 2 years on Old Fall Street, and then it moved to the casino, which seemed to kind of lost its momentum with going there. I think there's a lot of behind the scene things of maybe business interests of people that are putting on festivals with the people that manage the property in which the festival is put on. I've heard mixed things like that. I can't comment too much on it, but it seems to be that what happens is a festival starts getting going, shows some movement, it starts to grow, and then there seems to be infighting or bickering on revenue sharing or how it's going to be, or how do you get more vendors, or what it turns into. So that seems to have happened a couple times. There was a Taste of Niagara Falls, which was gaining some momentum, and then they moved to a very strange location like on First Street, behind Third Street, not even on Third Street. So it was kind of a strange situation, because there is movement going towards it, but it just seems to fizzle out as it starts to make type of progress.
Well, I've been to the Blues Festival there, and I've seen it, and that is a level of success. But when I went to see, showing my age here, the Grateful Dead or the Who at Rich Stadium, when it used to be Rich Stadium, you were in a traffic jam for hours. There's a different level there of activity that I think the fall should be more like hours of car delays. Not that I want that. In fact, eliminate cars and bring some other way to get me there. But, the fall seems to only be happy when there's a little bit of activity and we had a good afternoon. I think it should be swamped all the time. It's such a beautiful place.
Oh, yeah, I 100% agree. I think it could be and should be swamped all the time. It just, for whatever reason, there's numerous reasons. One could be by marketing, it could be who we're going after as tourists, whether there's different policies or different, things that we're trying to get different markets that come down here. It seems like we're sometimes in the industry so stuck on the same market of people and going and promoting the same attractions. The Maid of the Mist kind of is self-promoted. Everybody knows there's a boat that goes in front of the waterfall, and that's kind of a whole market of people that go after that. Same with Cave of the Winds. But now with other things opening like the Gorge, where you can go after and attract, people that actually like to hike, which is not a mass market, but it is still another group of people that would want to come here. I just think there's still, we need to be attracting all types of people. There was last spring, we were actually trying to get the downtown whole area to allow open containers like in New Orleans or Savannah, Georgia. When we kind of saw the opportunity happen where you could purchase food to go, and you can also purchase an alcoholic beverage to go at a restaurant, and where they're letting you get in your car and drive home with it. We're like, well, why can't you just in a restaurant in downtown Niagara Falls go into the Craft or Wine on Third, purchase a drink in a plastic cup, and then kind of wander the downtown area? Maybe you bar hop a bit. If we had an issue last year of hotel occupancy going to be way down because international travel isn't coming, why can't we get Buffalo residents to come have a great weekend or spend a night and partying it up in downtown Niagara Falls? Because when I was 21, I went to Chippewa Street and got a hotel room at the Holiday Inn. So can't we be doing the same thing and bring different segments? So not everyone's going to want to come down and party in downtown Niagara Falls, but there is a group that would want to do that. And you start kind of grabbing what all these different markets. And the Canadian side's been very successful at that. You go over there, they got family, they have adult, they have golfers, they have every segment you could possibly think of, they're going after to get down there.
So, a civics type question of who runs things and what happens. In general or specific, who runs tourism for Niagara Falls? Not a name, but I have seen and read in the paper where the head of the Niagara Falls tourism has said, I sell what we have. I don't tell people what we should have. And that's his business model. That's what his thing is. But then I also read there's a Buffalo Niagara partnership or Buffalo Niagara tourism agency, and that seems to be another one. Who is in charge of making a decision to have open containers? Well, that might be the city. Bad question. Who just says, what we need? We need a beanbag chair or something. Who does this?
Yeah, I personally think who should be doing are the entrepreneurs and the business owners. they should be directing this, because we deal with the market of people. We know exactly what we need to fix our business and make it, improve it. And if you don't, then you might not be a very good business owner. You should be in tune with what is making I always call like a business like a little engine, what it makes it run and how do you make it bigger. Fortunately, when these things are brought up, which there's a small group of us who bring up our concerns of how to make the industry a seasonal industry, or not seasonal, excuse me, long-term 12-month industry. And we just honestly don't get the things corrected that we want corrected. I would say last year and honestly, I don't even own a bar or restaurant. So this actually would have absolutely zero benefit to me of having open policy, open container policy. I don't sell alcohol, so it doesn't matter to me, but just creating a scene and a buzz to get people to come there was really my main concern. I want more people to come to Niagara Falls. And if you're not my customer, you're going to go back and talk about how awesome Niagara Falls is. You're going to get more people to come here. And we had me and another business owner, Pat Proctor from Rainbow Air. We were pretty much championing this idea, and we had Hard Rock Cafe wanted to do something, because the marketing behind it was to have unique marketing cups. So every place would have their own plastic cup. And just like New Orleans, you'd be walking around downtown and you would say, where did you get this cool cup from? And maybe it'll encourage more traffic to move around the city. And Hard Rock was on board. The Hyatt place was really on board with it. Some other establishments were totally in favor on it on 3rd Street, one on 3rd, the Craft. And it seemed to be politics kind of crushed it. There was some sort of political squabble behind the scenes that one entity or one politician thought another politician was championing the idea, and the idea was crushed. So we were like, what? I don't care if it's a Democrat or a Republican or what this political squabble is. I just want this place to be better. This was an idea to maybe boost revenue for all these places and also get people to come here. And that it just got crushed.
Who do you talk? I mean, but was there a panel that you and the air guy went to?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of it seems there really was no panel. We approached the Downtown Business Association. I say the association maybe was a little bit hesitant. I mean, the association is made up of people on the group that aren't necessarily business owners. They are the general managers or marketing people of the hotel. They don't really have the ultimate say. They got to watch out what they put their ideas or opinion behind with the letterhead of their company, because they don't really own that company. So maybe they're championing something and the owner doesn't like it, So there seems to be a disconnect with that a bit. I would say everyone that was a business owner was for the idea. And it seems a lot of times we get kind of drawn out by, maybe the hotelers or the general managers or marketing people of hotels who don't have their foot on the gas pedal like we do. We want this place to pop faster, not let's slowly move it. Let's do it now. I thought with COVID, this is the perfect time. All the normal rules are thrown out the window. This is the perfect time to reset things and change rules and get them done quicker, because everyone's in a crisis mode. Things are being thrown around like crazy. This is the perfect time to pop one of these in there, and it just didn't happen.
Everybody watches TV and reads the newspapers, and we're local and state and national and global all at the same time.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I hate to say politics of one thing, but, Joe Biden kind of trademarked Build Back Better. So let me just set aside him. I love that phrase. Let's build back better in the falls right now. It couldn't be a better time. We're supposed to be outdoors, not indoors. We're supposed to be socializing a little bit of distance outdoors. That all says the falls to me. Why isn't everyone in the area saying this is the time to build the falls right now? It couldn't be any better time. And I'm sensing there isn't anybody grabbing that. There's just a bunch of you who are working it every day, hoping for more, questioning more, but nobody's picking up the ball.
Yeah,
you're renting bikes. You're not supposed to. Like you can give your wild ass idea to somebody. You got to rent bikes. So go ahead.
No, I agree. There is no group, think tank, or entity that's championing these things or pushing these things. And like I said, I always say too, it's like, this is really not even my job to do this. I don't get paid to come up with ideas. It's like I got to focus on my own thing. And I got downtime in the wintertime to come up with ideas of how to grow the industry. But in the end of the day, I don't get a paycheck for it. So it's just my own. I want the industry to be better, because if more people come, we all make more money. That's just how it's going to work. Mm-hmm. And there seems to be, there's been people have been hired for positions of tourism manager or marketing person by the city. There's, the tourism advisory board, which I'm part of. And I was actually the president of it for a very short period of maybe 3 months. And I literally just brought a list of ideas of how to make the industry or the downtown look better. And it just seemed like nobody was interested in that. So I didn't know what to do. I was kind of like, oh, I'm like, what is the point of this group then? I don't really understand what we're supposed to be doing then if I'm coming up with ideas on how to grow the industry. And a lot of the ideas aren't super expensive things. We're not going out there and saying, oh, we need a $20 million project and let's find a developer that needs to find a tenant. It was just like the open container policy was simply the changing of a law, and let it organically change a law and let's see how businesses or developers respond to the change in the policy, and they're either going to see an opportunity or they're not going to see it as an opportunity. And if it's a disaster, just change the law back. If it becomes a problem down there, then you can just change it. It's not like you wasted millions of dollars. So even like lights on 3rd Street, that was a fight for about 4 years to get lights on the trees on 3rd Street. And now to this day, about 25% of the lights are lit up. And if you bring it up, it's been brought up for about a year and a half for the Downtown Business Association about the lights on 3rd Street. And it's almost a joke when somebody brings it up again, because it never gets fixed. It just continues to be out. It's like, these are basic things. Like, can't somebody from the city come down and just fix the lights? And it's always a convoluted answer. Well, it's National Grid's got to fix it, or this. Then get them to fix it. I don't understand what the problem is, but it doesn't look good when only 25% of the lights are on there. Either have all
it
lights.
looks terrible. Either don't put them up, but you can't have one bulb out. We notice. I'm a tourist. I notice.
Yeah, and same with Old Fall Street. Old Fall Street lights them up when there's no one there. November, December, Christmas. And then they take them down in the summer, and they're not like Christmas lights. They're like the nice white LED lights. It looks super cool. And they should leave them up all year round, because everyone complains it's super dark on Old Fall Street at night. It seems unsafe. The whole downtown is incredibly dark at night. We're the city that produced the power. Historically, it's like, why this place should be lit up like a Christmas tree all year round with LED lights, white LED lights. And it's always, it'll hurt the trees. The lights will hurt the trees. I don't know if that's a legit.
No, you didn't get told that. You got told that?
That is a legit answer we've heard time and time again, and I had to finally look this up. The LED lights strung around a tree will hurt a tree in its infancy, if you want to call it a brand new tree. It's got to grow. So you're restricting its growth. If the tree is starting to mature, you can wrap lights around it, because the lights have actually nothing to do with hurting the tree. It's just the tightness around around it from stopping it from growing. That's the only real, health issue to the tree. But yeah, I don't understand why they don't have them lit up all year, because it looks great. I don't understand why you only put it up when no one's down there. Put them up when everyone's down there. When people would take pictures of these lit up trees in the summertime. It's just, I don't know, so things like that. I'm just like, it's like, to me, that's a common sense thing.
Yeah.
And for some reason, those things just don't get done. I don't know.
We've got a couple questions, but before that, let me drop something on you that I've always thought of, and I have no answer to, and whatever, but you will. Like the St. Louis Arch, or fill in the blank. People go and have their picture taken next to it. It becomes an icon. I was just in Chicago, and they have the ball players outside the stadium, and everybody hugs the monument. Downtown Buffalo even has finally Jimmy Griffin throwing out the first ball at Pilot Field. Could we get some humongous thing downtown, or maybe stretching across the river between the two countries, something that puts us on the map? We're already on the map, but something that people come and take. But don't answer that. Just think about it. We'll try and get it. Somebody else ask a question here. Mike, do you have anybody for? I don't run the technology of this. I don't know how. So let's see if we got the question.
Okay, we got Brian coming in.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mike. Brian Archie, how are you?
Hey, good morning. Good morning, fellas. How are you today?
Morning. How are you?
Better just to hear your voice.
My man, I'm
just sorry. It's just growing pains. I'm sorry we're having all these issues. I apologize, but
this is what it is, and it's wonderful. It's dialogue, so I'm all in for it. I want to go back to Galen was speaking about just the movement around 3rd Street and whatnot with the businesses, and so I guess my question would be, if when talking to said entities that don't seem interested in what the businesses are interested in, why is that not then maybe redirected towards the people? and before you answer, so in my mind, when we build capacity, that's how we move the needle. I am quite positive that many of these spaces have a following, right? Have a following that would love to see the expansion of the space. You know what I mean? Folks that go to Hard Rock always go to Hard Rock. Folks that are visiting these hotel restaurants are always visiting the hotel restaurants. You've built up your business, and I'm sure you have, repeat folks and are looking for new ones.
Yeah.
So why was that not like that energy maybe redirected to the folks that could actually bring it to City Hall or whomever it was that needed to be spoken to? Because typically, things don't happen unless a lot of noise is made about it.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, part of the issue of why, so say like the open container law or the lights, or when all of us vendors were annoyed that, let the streets, Old Fall streets close down when we want the car traffic to go through, or events are held on, say like Old Fall Street when, like on 4th of July weekend, when we don't need help with getting a crowd of people on Old Fall Street. The people are there, I think what happens a lot of times, from a business perspective, or, we feel like there's not a lot of us, it seems like there's not a lot of businesses downtown. And like Tom mentioned, that extra stuff, we don't necessarily get paid for. So we're like distracted. We get annoyed. We bring up an idea. We try to push it. If it doesn't go anywhere, we immediately have to go back to what we were working on. And it just doesn't seem to go anywhere. I always hear, well, you got to go to the city council meetings. It's tough for me to make, like a city council meeting on, on a Wednesday night or even what night they are, but it's tough to go to them. There's not, it seems to be an outlet to get the frustration or to get these ideas championed and get them done. We bring them up, we kind of talk amongst ourselves, we get as much movement as we can of what's going to happen. A lot of times too, maybe it's also slightly too, I'm kind of naive. I think when it's a good idea, why don't people just do it? I don't understand why you have to make so much noise and fight about something that just makes sense. So, and apparently you do, I've heard time why the idea didn't work. And it's like, I guess I get the politics behind it, but I don't totally get the politics behind it. Why there are politics behind it in general, it's like, just do it, it'll work. Or if it doesn't work, we'll change it. So I guess downtown Niagara Falls, we come up with a lot of ideas that don't go anywhere. And it just seems we become frustrated, and then we just go into our own world of like, all right, I'm just going to focus on my business then. I'm not going to focus on trying to improve the district, because apparently nobody wants to really improve it. So you kind of pick and choose your fights and battles on what to and spend your energy on.
Well, let me follow up on Brian's question. Is most of your trade in strangers, tourists who don't come back, so they don't care about your one-day problem of an open container because they're not going to be here, next month?
Yeah. So I would
say, or
say,
people from Clarence and Amherst and Buffalo coming there, and we can all get mad because I want to come there and have an open container.
Yeah. So I guess maybe that's the question was, maybe didn't answer it very well. So I agree. Yes. All right. So in the past, our tourists or our visitors or my customers were a one-time customer. I most never even focused on repeat customers, because somebody coming from, say, I don't know, somewhere, I don't know, Missouri, they're not coming back next week. It wasn't until last year with COVID I started to see this massive uptick in regional travel. Mm-hmm. Even myself, I started regionally traveling a lot more too. So it's a trend that's happening, not just with me, but it's happening in Niagara Falls. And I started getting a lot more people regionally from Rochester. And then I started getting the most customers I ever got from Niagara Falls, residents. I never got residents before. I never would even see residents really down there coming up, asking questions or saying, hey, I'm a local. What I didn't know this was here. I could usually tell by the out-of-state license plates, or I'm like, man, there's really not many locals come down here as much as they should. And just last year, it was a massive uptick. It was great. And
so that,
go ahead, Brian.
So that was kind of my point right there, Galen. And I'm not a business owner, I at all, right? Yeah. But if in the business model, the customer is the business. Mm-hmm. The customer is the business, right? So you build and you frame to attract them. And so for me, if we're talking about building up Niagara Falls, we grab those that are in Niagara Falls that are participating in the business.
Yeah.
To build that local movement up. You know what I mean? Yeah. You get 100, 200 folks that are interested in these bikes and the travel, and this is just you specifically, it's kind of hard to stop them from wanting to do something. They're all going to be screaming, right? Let's go down to City Hall and talk about this and see what we can get. And in turn, it builds up your business that expands out on 3rd Street, and we build up the space, which for me is the city itself. So the investment is always, even though it's not lucrative at first, right? Because you talked about the business model, is in the people. Start with the people, and the people uphold the entity. If the people aren't there, if it's the one-offs that the tourism industry itself is shooting for, not just you, but the industry itself is shooting for, we're still going to be at a loss, and nobody in the city is going to reap any of those rewards. It's always going to be, tigers fighting for the last piece of meat.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, this year I'm going to have a heavy emphasis on getting as many locals just for my own business down there as much as possible. And it's some of it, obviously, the local business owners down there need to be doing more to get locals down there, I think. But it's, it's up to their business what they want to do with it. But I've seen a massive uptick in it. I plan on continuing that trend. But I totally understand what you're saying of getting more noise and getting more locals to help with these causes and wanting to come down there with these different ideas for it.
And it's free.
It is free. It's just, I don't know, there's a disconnect with the tourism industry, and there's a disconnect, it seems, with the rest of the city. It's like we're in our own world, which is changing now with this Civics project that Tom's putting on, it seems.
But I see so much local media on the waterfront in Buffalo, and I see none on the gorge in Niagara Falls. I think none. I don't even think a little. See none. That gorge path is unbelievable. Buffalo is great. It's fine. But but in Beijing, China, they know the word Niagara Falls. They don't know the name Buffalo. Why aren't we trying to get people to Niagara Falls, and they'll maybe go to Buffalo too? Instead, we're trying to get people to Buffalo, and we're not even mentioning Niagara Falls.
I don't think that we've taken ownership of the space. Let me be quiet.
Taking ownership of what?
Of the space, as Buffalo has.
Yeah.
There's two different audiences, and since we have continuously, and then I'm going to be quiet because this is Galen's interview. Since we have continuously
You're right. You're good.
Had the state be in control of the state park, people, the gorge is immediately associated to that, and that it's almost like a hands-off type of thing. When it's ours, it's we, you know what I mean? And I know avid walkers. I know people that go down there all the time. There's just not a lot of them.
I guess this is a very good point, Brian, about tourism. I see a real walls built up that the park belongs to the state. The casino 3 blocks away belongs to the Senecas, and the city's the city. I mean, there's not a blending. Now in downtown Buffalo, the waterfront may belong to the state. I don't know, but there's a blending where I don't know who it belongs to. It's just all blended into one thing where I can walk without, guilt. But when I go to Niagara Falls, it seems to be, you can go there, you can go there, you can go there. I don't know. It's not a seamless interaction.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to what you said about the coverage about Canal Side, and that honestly was somewhat strategic, I think, with partnerships and sponsorships. Blue Cross Blue Shield was a massive sponsor for Canal Side. I think it still is. They also pay a lot of money to the Buffalo News to advertise in. So it's kind of goes hand in hand. We're promoting Canal Side, we're sponsoring Canal Side, we pay you for advertising, we want you to write articles about Canal Side. That's how it works.
Catholic Health didn't come up and say, we'd love to give you money for Canal Side. Somebody working for someone was generating that as the main attraction. Somebody worked it. Nobody worked Niagara Falls that I can see, and I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, as far as sponsorship, or as far as
Sure, Catholic Health could have given all that money to Niagara Falls, right? If somebody asked them for it. Nobody must be asking them for it.
Yeah,
otherwise they do it.
Yeah, they get the sponsorship started with Global Spectrum, and Global Spectrum down Old Falls Street too. Canal Side got Global Spectrum. Canal Side sponsored, or Blue Cross Blue Shield sponsored Canal Side. That was on Global Spectrum, getting them to sponsor it. And it just
Yeah.
worked hand in hand. Buffalo News saw what was happening and said, we're going to write tons of articles about what's going on down here. The difference in Canal Side than downtown Niagara Falls, and Brian mentioned too about the locals, is that I vended on Canal Side when it first started, when it first officially opened. I had bikes on Canal Side, sponsored by Blue Cross Blue Shield. It didn't work out. People didn't want to take a bike and leave Canal Side. They wanted to stay on Canal Side, so it didn't work. But I saw how it worked. The locals, it was like basically Clarence, Amherst, Hamburg, all treated Canal Side as this destination. It was like the total opposite. It was all suburbanites from Western New York going to Canal Side. Niagara Falls, when I still had a business there at the same exact time, it was then all visitors. It was totally opposite people. One was totally tourists and one was totally locals. Now it's starting to switch. I don't know what's really going on at Canal Side. I'm not there anymore, but it was completely treated differently. And to mention, why aren't we promoting Niagara Falls and Buffalo together or trying to create this whole synergy? That is also somewhat of a political thing going on, because the two visitor centers, the one in Erie County is funded, I believe, just like in Niagara County, by bed tax dollars. And Niagara, the destination Niagara is not going to promote Erie County, because people that, like, say in Lockport or Lewiston or Youngstown are complaining, why are you promoting Buffalo when we're paying you to promote Lockport, and vice versa. Nobody in Buffalo is going to say, why are you promoting to go to Niagara Falls? Well, we want you to stay here in Buffalo. So there's this territorial thing of keep them in Buffalo, just go to Niagara Falls for the day and come back and spend the rest of your money in Buffalo, and vice versa. In Niagara County, it's kind of like, there is no other county. Don't go to Buffalo. They don't even mention it. Even though if I came to Niagara Falls and I wanted to go to beer breweries, well, there's 30 beer breweries now in Buffalo. That would maybe actually encourage me to stay longer, which I would love to see beer breweries in downtown Niagara Falls, which I know would work. There's kind of this territorial divide of marketing Buffalo, Niagara. And in the past, I used to hear that people in Niagara Falls were mad that Buffalo was, basically piggybacking the falls, and rightfully so. They're going to try to get you to come here for some reason.
Yeah.
We don't do the opposite. Why aren't we piggybacking Buffalo? If you're going to go to Buffalo for beer breweries or conferences, then come spend a whole day in Niagara Falls and maybe compete against their hotels and get them to stay in our hotels here.
Yeah. What I want to keep the Civics Project too is how things work. There is no good, there is no bad people or events. It is just cause and effect, though. What we do gives us what we have. So we have right now exactly what we have, because it's based on what we do. And we're not going to get anything different unless we change what we do. So we do have to know who does what in order to ask them to do something different. And that's, if we ever get passionate or spitting back and forth, that's because we want something better. And you're not evil if you didn't do it right. But if you hear from all of us that to do it better, maybe you'll listen and do it. But Dave has a question as well, because I can talk all morning. But
okay, here's Dave.
Question. Hey, Dave, how are you?
Oh, unmute Dave.
Oh, Dave.
I'm unmuted.
We usually tell Dave to mute.
Can you hear me? One of the things that I've heard this morning, who do you talk to at City Hall, that kind of thing. I think there's a fundamental people don't understand that. This sounds terrible to say because I've been in this business my whole life. Politicians don't want to hear from you. They just want to get their check. They just want to move up the ladder politically. When there's a job opening for somebody who's gonna handle promotion. Hey, I got a cousin. You fundamentally have to understand politicians are not, they're not what they say in press releases. I know, I've written those press releases. That's not who they are. It's a game that they're playing, and they want to get what they can get for themselves. It's terrible to say that. I'm not all of them like that, but so few people get involved in saying, hey, I want to solve this problem. It's like, hey, it's an opportunity. And let's face it, your best health care is with a public entity now. I mean, it's once upon a time, businesses were the big deal. And that's where you got the best living. Today it's government, and they're scrambling. And the only time they listen is if enough people say and do something, is if enough people say, damn it, I need this done. So I can't encourage people in Niagara Falls enough. And I think that's part of what this Civic product is. We got to get people mad as hell, and I'm not taking it anymore. Because again, you have a Niagara Falls is a gem. It's as Tom said, or Galen said, you're in China, Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
We should be, and the people that work for you, the taxpayers, should be like, how do we make this thing work? They should be excited to go in every day and say, how do we make things better? Let's try open containers. We'll do a 1-month trial on that. Let's test it. You know what? When you go to them and say, hey, we'd like to do open container, you know what they're thinking? Oh my God, I gotta write a bill. I gotta change this. I don't know what work.
And let me say to Dave's point too.
I'll shut up now, but that's
Okay.
kind of where we're at.
Thank you, Dave. Galen, not only is Niagara Falls a jewel, I'm not a total purist. If we built it up, we could tax everybody and have even more money for government. I mean, it's an underutilized asset to me more than a jewel, and we should have cleaner streets and better schools. Yes, but it should be the largest, most successful city in the world. It's that important. That's what I think it's undervalued as. But anyway, go ahead.
No, I agree. I think touch on Dave, him saying, making you come up with an idea and politicians or government act like it's a hassle. That's kind of, I guess, what kind of did happen. A lot of people, all I heard was the negative of the open container thing was, what if people just start coming down here, bringing cases of beer and not even going anywhere? All right, that's a legit thing, this thing. But what if it doesn't happen? If it does happen and that's all that happens, then this is a failed thing. We'll change it. But why to give it a shot and see what happens? Or I heard it's just going to create mass amounts of litter. Everyone's going to be walking around throwing their cups on the ground. And I'm like, they're already doing that now. So, I mean,
yeah,
you're always putting up the what ifs of the negative instead of what ifs of the positive. It's like, I'm in business. I rent stuff. My liability is high. I rent bicycles, electric scooters. And usually when I first started, everyone said, what if people steal the equipment and don't come back with it? Or what if people get hurt? Yeah, what if they do? What if they don't? And I just rent a ton of stuff and it's a huge success. It's however you look at it. To me, it's like, do it. If it's a problem, you completely change it and go back and change it. But to do nothing is what we seem to do. Is like, well, we're not going to do anything because of the what ifs of what's negative about it. Let's just try it and do it and see what happens.
Galen, we always run out of time because I love hearing what you say, but we got about 10 minutes left and somebody asked a question online. Let me ask it for them. If you were, the tourism czar, you work and live in that little area down there. What do you think should be Niagara Falls? Should we put up a fake snow slide near, what Smoke and Joe did? Should we make it a gambling mecca? Should we, what in ideal world would our side of Niagara Falls be best utilized to do?
Yeah. So to me, I'm going to speak just strictly on, I guess, me and maybe my generation of viewpoint of it. Tourism is definitely changing. For me, I would say, I am not a Disney person. Like, I don't like the fake stuff. I want to go to a city to experience the city. I want to go to the local restaurants, and I like craft beer. I know that's kind of a trend, but it's been popping up and it's happening in every city. I think 3rd Street could have 4 breweries on it. And I think you can make 3rd Street a brewery destination where you would have people coming all year round for something like that. There's such a lack of restaurants that I get people to ask about it. I think a barbecue place could crush it downtown Niagara Falls. I think a Mexican restaurant could crush it down there. I think, having, and those places are also usually combined with eating and drinking. And I think the culinary aspect of eating and drinking is a very popular aspect of tourism for, I think, millennials. I think that's going to be only going to grow as the millennial generation is moving into becoming the more higher end earners as we are starting to take over the workforce. We're growing and getting better paychecks, basically. I think we don't really have a culinary experience. We have a culinary school downtown, but there's not really a culinary experience. Downtown Niagara Falls could be known as a true destination place for like great food and great drinks and great this, and if you even look at the history of Niagara Falls, I have a ton of history books I read about it. People used to take the train, they would get off at the very end of Falls Street, walk down Falls Street, and it seems like there was a common trend. All they did was drink and eat and then go through the falls and come back out. And it seemed to be a winning solution. Could there be a Ferris wheel, huge Ferris wheel like they have in Atlanta and other cities like in London? 100%. That could be a family oriented thing. There's space to put one down there. A lot of these things aren't huge $150 million projects. They could be a bunch of projects that could, really change the destination. And it's going for different markets. Some people don't want food and drink. That's cool. There could be attractions developed that will go for the family oriented market. There's also no museums. There's not really, for how much history Niagara Falls has, there's not a single museum. It's crazy. All these other cities have museums. And I always go back to Savannah, Georgia, because Savannah, Georgia is just Savannah, Georgia. And it has all these cool things in it, museums, breweries, all this stuff. Yet we have the waterfall, a natural draw, and we don't have any of these other stuff. It's just like, it doesn't make sense why nobody is seeing the opportunity or taking the shot. Either it's purposely done that way, or I don't know, but those are some ideas I think would definitely work if things.
Thank you. I meant to end on that, but let me ask you a tougher one, because it's a more difficult one where, you know, like the broken window syndrome or whatever. And I think New York City turned in the 90s away from being, or every city did, away from being dangerous to really being safe. I don't know what they did, but it worked. Something as simple as don't block the box, you know, the traffic jams on local corners. What is up with all the vacant properties in the tourist areas? And I've called a lot of those phone numbers, and they're not for rent. They're not for sale. They're just vacant. And let me say, the one that is probably the most prominent piece of property in the entire city of Niagara Falls tourism area would be the Turtle. It's been vacant for 20 years. Do you think that's a problem and an eyesore, and like, we got to get anything in there? I mean, something.
Oh, it's 100% a problem. Yeah, it's these land speculators, for some reason, have no motivation or interest to do anything. I don't know what the reason is. I don't know if it's a tax write-off or why they're doing it. I have no clue. You know, just like everyone else, I look at them too and say, what is happening? You know, Howard Milstein owns so much property, super wealthy guy. Why are you doing nothing with these properties? Why don't you just sell them to somebody who wants to do something? I don't know what his motivation is to hold these properties, or just wait till they go up in value. I really don't know. It doesn't make sense.
Instead of that being a global problem of, oh, there's vacant properties, you own a business, and it actually hurts your business to have vacant businesses all around you. You can have a Taj Mahal, but if there's a vacant business on every other corner, it doesn't help a business like yours, right?
No, definitely not. No, it's even on 3rd Street, across the street, there's an apartment building for the last 3 years, has no windows. They just finally put up plywood just to block the windows in, and the front porch is like, they finally knocked down the brick. The brick was collapsing. And it's been like that for 2 years. It's like, do something with your property. It's, for some reason, people think they can just, or they do. I don't think they think they can do. They do it. They buy property in Niagara Falls, and they maybe have these great plans they think they're going to do, and for some reason they fall by the wayside immediately, and then nothing happens. They just hold on to the property. It's just, there are tons of, I mean, even on 3rd Street, there are so many vacant. It's starting to fill in more, but I'd say maybe half the street's filled. The other half is just vacancy. And you're like, why own a building if you're not going to do anything with it? You know, it doesn't, I don't know, it's just selfish, and it's just, why are you doing it? You know, I don't get it.
Yeah. So that is pure people. I mean, the government can fix that. The government can control that. That is a civics thing that has a culpability of a vacant building with broken windows. That's what civics does. That's the government part of civics. They need to fix that. And I know, I have to know it's negligent in Niagara Falls. They're not addressing that at all.
Yeah, and I think too, the city government, I mean, I talk a lot about this with not just business owners, but tons of residents on what they pick and choose code enforcement or to go after. You know, I know a business owner down there, Donatello's and the Craft, they had tables out in front of the restaurant, which the city supplied. And then randomly they came down last year during COVID and said, you have all of a sudden have to have a permit for your tables. And of course the business owners were annoyed, like, wait a minute, we have to get a permit now for these tables. They've been here for years. You supplied, you bought them. And now all of a sudden we have to get a permit for them. Like, it's like but then they're going to cross the street. This guy's got his front porch dilapidated, falling down with bricks. How did you address this guy's problem? Or all these, you know, the slumlords that have literally let their properties go with the porches about to collapse, these double-decker porches, and not going after those guys, but you're coming after and bothering us about because we got tables in front of our storefronts that apparently aren't permitted, or we're taking a shot doing something that maybe trying to spruce something up or do something. Well, you can't do that because it's there's some sort of reason you can't do it. It's like, shouldn't you be directing your attention to the vacant building over here and not giving somebody that is trying to do something or try to create an experience for the visitor down here? Just kind of let us kind of do our thing. And then when it becomes a problem, then when the street is booming, then you can create permits for tables.
Right.
You know? Not when there's 3 businesses on the street.
Galen, I can't thank you enough for your civics participation today and whenever we've talked offline. But finally, the difference, I think, between Canal side, which I love, we're not criticizing anything, and Niagara Falls, which I love, is that if I rent a bike from you in Niagara Falls, I can drive all the way to Lewiston on a path that with no traffic, 14 miles, I believe, and back. That's a pretty good bike ride and worthy bike rental. And it's not the same everywhere. You can really max out on bike rentals. So you're open when? Where do I find you? How do I rent a bike? Is it easy?
All right, so we'll be open April 1st. Our kiosk on Old Falls Street and Prospect Street, right at the entrance of the state park, a block from Hard Rock Cafe. We're right by Flip Burger. We will be open for rentals. Like I said, we rent bicycles. We have numerous kid bicycles. We rent stand-up electric scooters. We also rent, like I said, wheelchairs, mobility scooters. We have our kiosk there, and we will be developing a retail and rental storefront on 3rd Street. We do have equipment in there now. We're just not physically open there totally yet. So
what's a stand-up rental scooter? Is that one of those Segways? It's just not a Segway?
yeah, so they're actually, the ones that we have are 9bot. They're powered by Segway. 9bot just recently bought Segway, but they are basically a kind of like you see in all these other cities are these stand-up electric scooters, these scooter share companies. I bought the same exact type of scooter that they use. Instead of having it so it's a scooter share and renting by the minute, we just rent them by the hour, or we rent them by the day. They're $15 for an hour rental. We do rent them for $35 for the entire day. We take it all day. You can even take it overnight and you return it the following morning. We give you a charger so you can charge it up. And really for locals too, a lot of locals took advantage of coming down for the $35, and they would just take them wherever they wanted. You don't have to necessarily stay in downtown Niagara Falls with it. You could pick it up and you could take it to Hyde Park. You could take it anywhere. You take it to Lewiston. You could take it to Niagara Park. You could take it anywhere you want to go with it. The thing, as long as you back the next day.
I love to walk, but I do get tired sometimes, over a long distance. But people that might have, other issues and they don't really walk. This is walking without walking, right? You can go on one of those scooters. What? Could you go all the way to Fort Niagara or no? A little far?
No, the battery life would never last. You could on a bike though with the new path. But you could definitely make it from downtown Niagara Falls to Whirlpool and back, Whirlpool State Park on one of these scooters.
Amazing.
Yeah, and if you have trouble walking, say you have anybody that has trouble walking, and we a lot of seniors that are getting up there, are coming down with their family and grandma or grandpa or anybody with trouble walking, the mobility scooters we rent, you could cover the entire park. So we have been making it a lot easier for people that haven't seen the falls in a while. I've had actually regulars now starting to come down because they couldn't even go up to Prospect Point because they had trouble walking, and now they're coming down every couple of weeks to rent it just to cruise around Goat Island, which they haven't been able to do in years, on one of our mobility scooters.
We should also note that Niagara Falls, the city, is very walkable, rideable. It's very easy to get into the neighborhoods and go, wow, I've never been around here. It's a very nice city in that regard to get around.
Yeah, it really is. I think, a lot of people, I always hear this too, and a lot of local residents seem to think the city is bigger than what it is. You could ride a bike from Hyde Park to downtown into the tourist district in 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
Right.
It's nothing. In a major city, that's, huge cities, you can't really do it like that. And it's perfectly set up. You can get around here pretty quick on a bicycle. And it's not, I think that'd be great to connect Hyde Park and the park downtown, because I live by Hyde Park, and Hyde Park's beautiful. I would like to see actually more bike paths around the park. There's no really bike path around it. It's just a super beautiful park. It's huge too.
Yeah. All right, Galen, thank you so much. Again, my favorite part of the whole week is this 1 hour, and I can't thank you enough. And we'll see you at your store on 3rd Street.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you,
day.
Mike Reed, Mr. IT, for making this happen. Have a good Sunday. Bye.